3 alien girls tied up in a sacrificial ritual until a lone human wanderer changed their fate. The ancient stones of Teranshu loomed like silent sentinels through the ghostly mist, their weathered surfaces telling stories of civilizations long forgotten. Ethan Ward wiped sweat from his brow, his calloused hand leaving a streak of dirt across his forehead. 3 years stranded on this godforsaken rock had turned his once pristine explorer's attire into little more than rags held together by stubbornness and necessity, much like the man himself. "Another fruitless day in paradise to our Sa'anaji," he muttered, his deep voice carrying no further than the swirling fog around him. At 43, Ethan still cut an impressive figure despite his circumstances. His muscular frame had been honed by years of survival rather than any gym, and his dark hair, now peppered with distinguished gray, fell haphazardly around a face weathered by experience. The green eyes that had once charmed university colleagues and indigenous guides alike now surveyed the alien landscape with practiced caution. The crash had left him with nothing but his historian's knowledge and adventurer's instincts. Both had served him well enough to stay alive, but neither had managed to get him off this mysterious world that seemed determined to keep its secrets. Tonight something felt different. The mist moved with unusual purpose, coiling around the ancient stone pillars like curious fingers. Ethan's skin prickled with goosebumps despite the humid air. He'd learned to trust these instincts. They'd saved his hide more times than he cared to count. "Help us!" Ethan froze mid-step, his hand instinctively reaching for the makeshift spear strapped to his back. The voice hadn't come through his ears but had resonated directly within his mind. A sensation both foreign and invasive. "Please, anyone—" "Great," he growled, adjusting his grip on the spear. 3 years of solitude and now I'm hearing voices. Classic sign of a man losing his marbles. "We sent you so close. Help us before the ritual." The voices, he realized there were several now, carried notes of desperation that couldn't be products of his imagination. They spoke in a language he'd never heard, yet somehow he understood their meaning perfectly. Curiosity overrode caution. Ethan moved toward what he sensed was a source, his footsteps silent from years of hunting the local fauna. The mist parted before him as if guiding his path, leading him deeper into the ruins than he'd ever ventured. The scene that greeted him as he crested a small rise stole his breath. In a circular clearing surrounded by towering monoliths, 3 figures were bound to a central pillar. The flickering light of ceremonial fires revealed them to be female. Humanoid but clearly alien, their skin a delicate pale green that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. They were young, perhaps equivalent to humans in their early 20s, with slender, graceful forms wrapped cruelly in coarse ropes. Their hair, the color of pure moonlight, cascaded down their shoulders, contrasting sharply with their emerald skin. Large, expressive eyes of pure white showed no pupils but conveyed unmistakable terror. Their pointed ears, reminiscent of Earth's mythical elves, twitched in distress. Each wore only wisps of translucent fabric adorned with symbols that seemed to shift and change as Ethan watched. The garments offered little modesty, and Ethan forced himself to focus on their faces rather than their curves. Around them, a dozen robed figures moved in rhythmic patterns, their forms hunched and alien, so different from the captives that Ethan wondered if they were even the same species. They chanted in guttural tones that made his skin crawl. "You hear us. Please, human one, the shaman will return soon. They will sacrifice us to the void gods." Ethan's mind raced. How did they know he was human? Why could he understand them? And most importantly, what the hell was he supposed to do against a dozen alien cultists with nothing but a homemade spear and his wits? The rational part of his brain, the part that had kept him alive for 3 years, screamed at him to retreat. This wasn't his fight. Getting involved would only end with him joining the sacrifices. But as one of the robed figures approached the bound women with a ceremonial dagger, something primal and undeniably human rose within Ethan. He hadn't survived this long, hadn't pushed through the loneliness and despair, just to stand by while innocents were slaughtered. "Well," he whispered to himself, a grim smile forming beneath his unkempt beard, "I was getting bored of this solitary explorer routine anyway." With practiced precision, Ethan knocked a stone-tipped arrow to his bow and drew the string back. His muscles, hardened by years of survival, held the tension effortlessly as he took aim at the approaching shaman. Sometimes fate chose the most unlikely of heroes. Today it had chosen a stranded historian with a stubborn streak a mile wide and a sudden, inexplicable connection to 3 alien women he'd never met. Ethan exhaled slowly and released the arrow. Ethan never heard them coming. One moment he was poised to release his arrow, the next something hard struck the back of his skull. The world spun, then faded to black. He awoke to the sensation of rough fibers digging into his wrists and ankles. Blinking away the fog of unconsciousness, Ethan found himself bound to the same ancient pillar as the 3 alien women, their slender forms pressed against his more substantial frame. "Well, this rescue attempt is off to a stellar start," he muttered, testing his bonds. The ropes held firm. "You tried. That is more than anyone has done for us in many cycles." The voice in his mind was gentle, almost musical despite the dire circumstances. Ethan turned his head to find one of the alien women looking at him with those pupil-less white eyes. Up close, her beauty was even more striking. Delicate features set in a heart-shaped face, her pale green skin luminous in the firelight. "I'm Ethan Ward, human. Crashed here 3 years ago," he whispered, unsure if speaking aloud was wise with the shamans nearby. "I am Lirael," came the reply. "These are my sisters, Nyara and Talus. We are Silverae, princesses of the last free city of our people." The other 2 women regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and fear. One, Antira, he presumed, had a slightly darker shade of green to her skin and wore her moonlight hair in intricate braids. Talus appeared to be the youngest, with a sprinkling of what looked like freckles across her nose and cheeks. "Princesses? Great. I've graduated from stranded historian to failed knight in shining armor," Ethan said with a wry smile. Lirael's lips curved upward, though she didn't speak aloud. "Your thoughts are different, vibrant, unlike any mind we have touched." "That's humans for you. We're a stubborn, messy bunch." A guttural chant rose from the gathering of shamans. Their hunched forms swayed in unison around a central fire that cast long, distorted shadows across the stone circle. "They are Krelthar." Nyar's voice entered his mind, her mental tone sharper than her sister's. "They conquered our world a generation ago. Our people have been in hiding ever since." "Our capture completes their dominion," added Talus, her mental voice tinged with youthful fear. "With the royal bloodline extinguished, the resistance will falter." Ethan studied the aliens performing the ritual. The Krelthar were nothing like the graceful Silvari. Where the princesses were slender and elegant, these creatures were stocky, with mottled gray skin that hung in loose folds. Their faces were flat with small, beady eyes set deep in their skulls. "What's their plan for me?" Ethan asked. They believe you are a sign from their gods," Lirael explained, "a powerful off-worlder appearing at the sacred site during the ritual of ascension." "They will sacrifice you first," Nyar added bluntly. "They believe consuming your essence will grant them dominion beyond our world." "Fantastic," Ethan muttered. "Always wanted to be someone's dinner." Despite the gravity of the situation, he became acutely aware of Lirael's form pressed against his side. The thin fabric of her ritual garment did little to separate them, and her skin radiated a pleasant warmth that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. "Your thoughts are colorful," Lirael observed, a hint of amusement in her mental voice. Ethan felt heat rise to his cheeks. "Sorry, been alone a long time." "Do not apologize," she replied. "Your mind is fascinating, so different from our people." Talus leaned closer from his other side. "Humans truly look like you? So solid?" "We come in all shapes and sizes, but yeah, this is pretty standard human male," Ethan replied, trying to ignore the pleasant sensation of being sandwiched between these ethereal beauties. "Your species reproduces physically, yes?" Nyar asked with a scientific curiosity. "Not through mental fusion like the Silvari?" Ethan nearly choked. Yes. Oh, very physically." Intriguing, all 3 seemed to think simultaneously. The lead shaman approached, his gnarled staff adorned with bones and crystals that clinked together with each step. Behind the ceremonial mask, small eyes studied Ethan with malevolent intelligence. Great void, consume this offering, the shaman rasped in heavily accented but recognizable standard galactic. Grant us the strength of worlds beyond. They will begin the ritual at moonrise, Lyrael warned. We have perhaps 1 hour. Ethan tested his bonds again, feeling the ropes give slightly. I might be able to work my way free, but I'll need time. We can help distract them, offered Nyara. Our telepathy allows us to project images, sensations, but we must be careful, cautioned Talus. If they suspect our interference, they will separate us. As the shamans retreated to prepare the final elements of the ritual, Ethan felt Lyrael's consciousness brush against his more deliberately. Your mind holds such strength, such determination, she observed. Among our people, such mental fortitude is deeply admired. The implication wasn't lost on Ethan. Is that so? Indeed, Nyara joined the mental link. A mind like yours would be considered extremely desirable. Talus's mental presence carried a hint of shyness. We have never encountered a species like yours. Your thoughts burn so brightly. Ethan found himself responding to their interest despite the dire circumstances. There was something undeniably alluring about their otherworldly beauty and the intimate way their minds touched his. Let's focus on escaping first, he suggested, though his thoughts betrayed his growing attraction. Then we can explore cultural exchanges. A ripple of amusement passed through their mental link, accompanied by something warmer, more inviting. Agreed, Lyrael replied, her mental voice carrying a promise that made Ethan's heart race. Survive now. Discover each other later. As the moons of Terran Shu began their slow ascent into the night sky, Ethan worked methodically at his bonds, driven by a new determination. Somehow in this most unlikely of places, he'd found a connection he'd thought lost forever, and he wasn't about to let it slip away without a fight. Now, Ethan whispered as the shamans gathered around the central fire, their attention focused on mixing concoctions in stone bowls. The three Silveri princesses closed their eyes in unison, their delicate features tightening with concentration. Immediately, the air around the ritual site shimmered, like heat waves rising from sun-baked stone. We can only maintain the illusion briefly, Lyrael's voice cautioned in Ethan's mind. Their minds are primitive, but resistant to prolonged influence. Ethan felt rather than saw the change. The shamans suddenly froze. Their beady eyes glazed over as they stared at illusory visions only they could perceive. He doubled his efforts against the ropes, feeling them finally give way as his wrist broke free. 3 years of making snares and traps finally paying off, he muttered, quickly untying his ankles before turning to free the princesses. His fingers brushed against Lyrael's skin as he worked at her bonds, sending an unexpected jolt of electricity through his system. Her white eyes widened, suggesting she'd felt it too. Sorry, he whispered, working faster. Do not apologize, she replied, her mental voice carrying a warmth that made his pulse quicken. Your touch is most pleasant. Once freed, they moved silently away from the ritual site, Ethan leading the way with Lyrael close behind, followed by Nyara and Talus. The princesses moved with ethereal grace despite their ordeal, their bare feet hardly seeming to touch the ground. How long will they stay confused? Ethan asked as they ducked behind a fallen monolith. Minutes only, Nyara replied, her mental voice tense with exertion. We are projecting visions of us still bound to the pillar, but maintaining such detailed illusions taxes our strength. Then we need to put as much distance between us and them as possible, Ethan said, scanning their surroundings. Any suggestions where to go? Yes, Talus answered, pointing toward a cluster of ruins half hidden by mist and vegetation. There's a sanctuary of our people nearby. Few know of its existence. They move swiftly through the ruins, the mist providing welcome cover. Ethan couldn't help but notice how the princess's semi-transparent garments caught on branches and stone edges, revealing tantalizing glimpses of their slender forms. He tried to keep his mind focused on escape, but his thoughts betrayed him. Your mind is colorful again, Lyrael observed with what felt like amusement. Sorry, Ethan muttered, feeling heat rise to his face. Been a while since I've had company, let alone such, elegant company. We find your thoughts intriguing, Nyara added, her mental voice carrying a hint of curiosity. Silvari rarely experienced such physical reactions. Before Ethan could respond, a distant howl cut through the night. The Krelthar had discovered their deception. "Time to run," Ethan urged, taking Lyril's hand instinctively. Her fingers intertwined with his, her skin surprisingly firm despite its delicate appearance. They raced through the ruins, eventually reaching what appeared to be a solid wall of stone covered in ancient carvings. Talus pressed her palm against a specific symbol, and a section of the wall slid away silently, revealing a hidden passage. "Impressive," Ethan breathed as they hurried inside, the wall closing behind them. Soft, bioluminescent fungi lined the passage, bathing everything in a gentle blue glow. The corridor opened into a spacious chamber where the remnants of what must have been magnificent architecture still stood. Pools of clear water reflected the glowing ceiling, and strange plants grew in carefully tended beds. "Is this place safe?" Ethan asked, finally allowing himself to relax slightly. "Yes," Lyriel answered, her mental voice calmer now. "The sanctuary is shielded from Krelthar's senses. We are the last to know of its existence." "The last?" Ethan frowned. "What happened to your people?" "Scattered, hiding. Many were taken as slaves," Niara explained, her expression darkening. "The Krelthar came a generation ago, seeking our world's resources and our telepathic abilities." Talus approached one of the walls where intricate murals depicted the history of their civilization. "This sanctuary was built by our ancestors during the golden age of Silvari. It contains our most sacred knowledge." She pointed to a particular section of the mural that showed a figure distinctly different from the slender Silvari, broader, more substantial. "The prophecy of the Star Wanderer," Lyriel explained, moving to stand beside Ethan. "It speaks of an off-worlder who would arrive when the royal line faced extinction, one who would help reclaim our world." Ethan studied the mural with a historian's eye. "I hate to disappoint you, but I'm just a stranded explorer with bad luck and worse timing." "Perhaps not," Yara countered, her wide eyes studying him intently. "Your mind resonates with ours in ways no other species has. You heard our call across a great distance, and you came to our aid without hesitation," Talus added softly. "Just as the prophecy foretold." Ethan ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "Look, I'm happy to help however I can, but prophecies aren't exactly my specialty." Lyriel stepped closer, her luminous form radiating a gentle warmth that drew him like a moth to flame. "There is more. The prophecy speaks of a joining of minds and bodies, a union that would create power enough to drive the invaders from our world." "A joining?" Ethan's mouth suddenly felt dry as all three princesses regarded him with undisguised interest. "Among our people," Nara explained, moving to his other side, "physical forms are secondary to mental connection. But the prophecy speaks of a different kind of union, one unknown to Silvari." Talus completed the circle around him, her youthful features alight with curiosity. "Your human way of connection. It intrigues us." Ethan swallowed hard, acutely aware of their proximity, their ethereal beauty, and the implication of their words. "I'm not sure I understand what you're suggesting." Lyriel's mental voice carried a smile. "I believe you do, Ethan Ward. Your thoughts betray you." As if to emphasize her point, her slender fingers reached up to touch his bearded cheek, sending another electric jolt through his system, stronger this time, and unmistakably pleasurable. "Rest now," she suggested, gesturing toward comfortable-looking cushions arranged near one of the pools. "We have much to discuss when you are refreshed." The look in her pupilless eyes left little doubt about the nature of that discussion. Ethan awoke to the gentle sound of flowing water. For a moment he thought he was back on Earth, camping beside some mountain stream. Then the events of the previous night rushed back, and he sat up abruptly. The sanctuary glowed with soft bioluminescence, casting everything in ethereal blue light. Nearby, Lyriel sat cross-legged beside one of the pools, her slender fingers tracing patterns on the water surface. She looked up as he stirred, her white eyes somehow conveying warmth despite their lack of pupils. "You slept deeply," she observed, her mental voice tinged with amusement. "Your dreams were vivid." Ethan felt heat rise to his face. "You can see my dreams?" "Not see, feel," she clarified, rising with fluid grace to approach him. "Your emotions radiate strongly when your conscious mind rests." That's slightly embarrassing, Ethan admitted, running a hand through his hair. Lyriel sat beside him, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her pale green skin. Do not be embarrassed. Your dreams honor us. Before he could respond, Nyara and Talus entered from a side passage, carrying what appeared to be fruits and some kind of bread. Unlike the tattered ritual garments they'd worn during their escape, they now wore simple robes of a shimmering material that complemented their luminous skin. I see you found new clothes, Ethan observed, grateful for the distraction. The sanctuary preserves much from before the invasion, Talus explained, offering him a piece of the strange bread, including garments for ritual cleansing. Ethan accepted the food, finding it surprisingly sweet and satisfying. Speaking of cleansing, is there somewhere I could wash up? 3 years in the wilderness hasn't done wonders for my hygiene. Nyara gestured toward one of the pools. The waters here are purified by the living stones. They will cleanse without harming. After eating, Ethan approached the indicated pool. He hesitated, then glanced back at the 3 princesses, who watched him with undisguised interest. A little privacy, maybe? The concept seemed to puzzle them. Talus tilted her head curiously. Privacy during cleansing is a human custom? Generally, yes, Ethan replied, feeling oddly prudish despite his predicament. Fascinating, Nyara commented. Sylvari consider bodily forms merely vessels for the mind. We share communal cleansing as naturally as sharing thoughts. Despite their alien perspective making perfect sense, Ethan couldn't quite shake his human sensibilities. Still, if you wouldn't mind, the princesses exchanged glances that suggested they found his modesty endearing, if incomprehensible. They retreated to the far side of the chamber. Though Ethan noticed they didn't completely turn away, the water proved wonderfully refreshing, washing away years of grime and tension. As he emerged and dressed in his somewhat cleaner clothes, he felt renewed in body and spirit. Rejoining the princesses, he found them gathered around a section of wall that hadn't been illuminated before. Ancient symbols glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm like a heartbeat. "What's this?" he asked, studying the intricate patterns. "The heart of sanctuary," Lyriel explained. "It has been dormant for generations. But now," she reached out, taking his hand and placing it against the wall. The moment his skin touched the surface, the symbols flared brilliantly, bathing the chamber in golden light. Ethan felt a strange vibration pass through his body, not unpleasant, but definitely alien. "Oh, what just happened?" he asked, pulling his hand back in surprise. "The prophecy," Talus whispered in his mind, her mental voice filled with awe. "The Star Wanderer's touch awakens what sleeps." The wall before them shifted, sections sliding away to reveal a hidden chamber. Inside, illuminated by the same golden light, stood what appeared to be weapons and armor unlike anything Ethan had seen. Elegant, organic-looking designs that seemed to blur the line between technology and art. "The Guardian's arsenal," Nyara breathed, thought lost when the Krelthar came. Ethan approached cautiously, drawn to what appeared to be a sword. As his fingers closed around the hilt, the blade shimmered and adjusted its length slightly, as if conforming to his grip. "It's responding to me," he said in wonder. "The weapons of the Guardians bond with those they deem worthy," Lyriel explained, moving to stand beside him. "They are extensions of will as much as physical tools." Ethan tested the sword's balance, finding it perfect. "This could definitely help against the Krelthar." "There is more," Nayar said, gesturing to a map that had appeared on another wall. "The sanctuary is but one node in a network. If all were activated, we could power up defenses across the planet," Ethan finished, understanding dawning. "But I'm guessing the other nodes are in less friendly territory?" "Yes," Talus confirmed. 3 primary nodes remain, each guarded by Krelthar strongholds now. Lyriel's fingers brushed against Ethan's arm, sending that now familiar electric sensation through him. The prophecy speaks of more than just awakening the sanctuary. It tells of a deeper connection that would fuel the network's power. Her white eyes held his gaze meaningfully, and Ethan felt his pulse quicken. "What kind of connection?" "A joining of essences," she replied, her mental voice intimate. "Silvery bond through mental fusion, but the prophecy describes a physical union with the Star Wanderer, something unknown to our people." Nyara moved closer, her own fingers trailing lightly across his shoulder. "We have studied your thoughts, your dreams. We believe we understand this human way of connection." Tylus completed their circle around him, her youthful features alight with curiosity and something more. "Would you show us, Ethan? Would you join with us, as humans do?" The invitation was unmistakable, their interest genuine. Ethan felt desire surge through him, but also uncertainty. This is a lot to process. In human culture, such connections are usually reserved for deeper emotional bonds, Lariel suggested, reading his hesitation. "Among Silvari, the sharing of minds is our most intimate act. To share bodies would be an extension of that trust." Their minds brushed against his, conveying feelings of admiration, curiosity, and genuine affection that had developed in their short time together. There was no manipulation, only honest desire. "If we do this," Ethan said carefully, "it should be because we want to, not just because of some prophecy." "We want to," all three confirmed simultaneously, their mental voices harmonizing beautifully. "We choose this. We choose you." What followed was a night of discovery unlike any Ethan had experienced. The joining of human and Silvari created sensations neither had known before. Physical pleasure amplified by telepathic connection, emotions shared directly rather than expressed. Their bodies moved together in ancient human rhythms, while their minds danced in Silvari patterns, creating something entirely new. As they lay together afterward, the sanctuary around them pulsed with renewed energy, the golden light spreading through hidden conduits in the walls and floor. "It begins," Lariel murmured against his chest. The awakening spreads. The sanctuary's warning system activated with a shrill, crystalline tone that jolted Ethan from his peaceful slumber. Beside him, the three Silvari princesses were already alert, their luminous skin pulsing with agitation. "Krelthar approach," Lariel communicated urgently. "Many of them. The energy surge from our connection has drawn their attention." Ethan leapt to his feet, reaching for the guardian sword that now seemed to call to him like an old friend. "How much time do we have?" "Minutes only," Nyara replied, her slender fingers dancing across a control panel that had appeared in the wall. "They've brought trackers, beasts that can sense energy fluctuations." The map on the wall pulsed with new information, showing dozens of red dots converging on their location. Simultaneously, blue lights began appearing across the region, faint but unmistakable. "Other Silvari," Talus explained, noticing Ethan's questioning glance. "The sanctuary's awakening has activated dormant communication nodes. Our people are responding." Ethan studied the map, his military historian's mind quickly assessing their situation. "We're surrounded, but if we can reach this valley to the east, we might be able to rendezvous with these Silvari signals." As he spoke, a strange sensation washed over him, a prickling awareness that felt like invisible fingers brushing against his consciousness. He staggered slightly, gripping the sword hilt tighter. "Ethan?" Lariel was at his side instantly, her cool hand steadying him. "What's wrong?" "I can feel them," he said wonderingly. "The Krelthar. I can sense their movements, their intentions." He pointed to the map. "They're splitting into 3 groups to surround us, but they don't know about this passage here." The princesses exchanged startled glances. "The bond has strengthened your latent telepathic abilities," Nyara realized. "You're developing Silvari sensitivities." "This is unprecedented," Talus added, her mental voice tinged with excitement despite their predicament. "No off-worlder has ever manifested our abilities." Lariel's fingers intertwined with Ethan's, her touch sending pleasant ripples of warmth up his arm. "The prophecy spoke of transformation, but we thought it metaphorical." "Well, it's definitely literal," Ethan replied, focusing on the new sensations. "And it works both ways. They can sense me, too, more strongly than they can sense you. They're hunting me, specifically." "Then we use that to our advantage," Lariel decided, her mental voice taking on a commanding edge that reminded Ethan she was, after all, royalty. "Nyara, gather the Guardian artifacts. Talus, activate the emergency protocols." The younger princesses moved with practiced efficiency, while Lariel guided Ethan to a small alcove where armor pieces awaited, sleek, organic-looking protection that seemed to flow rather than clank. The Guardian's embrace, she explained, helping him don the lightweight pieces. It will amplify your connection to our technology while providing protection. As each piece settled against his body, Ethan felt it conform perfectly to his frame. Almost like a second skin, the material was unlike any he'd encountered. Neither metal nor fabric, but something in between, warm to the touch and responsive to his movements. "It feels a lot," he observed. "In a sense, it is," Lyriel confirmed. "Silveri technology merges the organic and inorganic. The armor responds to your life force." Fully equipped, Ethan felt strangely complete, as if he'd been missing these extensions of himself without realizing it. The sword hummed in harmony with the armor, and he could sense the defensive capabilities waiting to be activated. Nyara returned with packs containing smaller artifacts. "We must take what we can. The rest will be sealed until our return. The communications system is active," Talus reported. "I've made contact with a resistance cell led by Commander Aerith. They'll meet us at the Eastern Ridge if we can reach it." A violent tremor shook the sanctuary, dust raining from the ceiling. "They found the outer entrance," Lyriel warned. "We must go now." They moved swiftly through a hidden passage that spiraled downward, deeper into the earth. Ethan led the way, his newfound senses guiding him around dangers before they became visible. It was disorienting but exhilarating, like having radar built into his brain. "This is incredible," he murmured as they emerged into a natural cavern, lit by the same bioluminescent fungi. "I can feel everything around us." "Your mind was always receptive," Nyara observed, moving gracefully beside him. "Our connection merely awakened what was dormant." Talus brushed her fingers against his armored forearm, her touch sending pleasant tingles through the material. "You adapt so quickly. Humans are remarkably resilient." "Necessity is the mother of adaptation," Ethan quipped, then froze as his senses detected movement ahead. "Company, 6 Krelthar scouts with tracking beasts." "Can we avoid them?" Lyriel asked. Ethan concentrated, mapping the area in his mind. "No, they're directly in our path. Why, we'll have to fight." He felt a surge of determination from the princesses, their minds linking more firmly with his. To his surprise, they produced weapons from their packs, elegant staffs that glowed with the same energy as his sword. "We are not merely scholars and royalty," Nyara informed him, noting his surprise. "All Silvari of the royal line are trained in the Guardian arts, though we've had little opportunity to practice against real opponents," Talus added with a hint of nervousness. Ethan gripped his sword, feeling it respond to his intent. "Stay behind me initially. Follow my lead." They crept forward until the Krelthar patrol came into view, hunched gray-skinned creatures with their unsettling tracker beasts, which resembled hairless wolves with too many eyes. Before the Salians could react, Ethan charged, his guardian sword leaving trails of golden light as it sliced through the air. The first 2 Krelthar fell before they could raise their crude weapons. The princesses moved with surprising coordination, their staffs discharging bolts of energy that incapacitated 2 more. The remaining scouts and their beasts converged on Ethan, sensing him as the primary threat. He fought with a skill he'd never possessed before, the sword almost guiding his movements. When a tracker beast leapt at him, he instinctively activated a shield function in his armor, sending the creature flying backward with a yelp. In less than a minute, the skirmish was over. Ethan stood among the fallen Krelthar, breathing heavily not from exertion, but from the rush of combat. "You fight like a born guardian," Lyrael observed, admiration flowing through their mental link. "The equipment does most of the work," Ethan demurred, though he couldn't deny the natural affinity he felt for the ancient weapons. "No," Nyara corrected. "The equipment responds to your natural abilities. It cannot create skill where none exists." They continued through the caverns, eventually emerging onto a forested slope. In the distance, Ethan could see the Eastern Ridge where their rendezvous awaited. Between them and safety lay a valley crawling with Krelthar search parties. "We cannot fight them all," Talus observed. "We won't have to," Ethan replied, a plan forming in his mind. "They're tracking me specifically, right? Then I'll give them something to track." "I'll draw them off," Ethan declared, studying the valley below, where Krelthar search parties combed the terrain. "You 3 head east to the rendezvous. I'll circle around and meet you there." Lyriel's hand shot out, gripping his armored forearm with surprising strength. "No, we cannot separate. It's the only way," Ethan argued. They're tracking me specifically. If I lead them south... You don't understand, Nyara interrupted, her mental voice tense. The bond we formed is still new, still fragile. Extended separation could weaken it irreparably. Talus moved closer, her luminous eyes reflecting concern. Your telepathic abilities are developing because of our connection. Without our presence to stabilize them... What happens? Ethan asked, suddenly uneasy. Best case? The abilities recede, Lyral explained. Worst case? Your mind could burn out trying to maintain abilities it wasn't evolved to handle. Ethan absorbed this sobering information. So we stick together. But that still leaves us with the problem of getting past an army of Krelthar. A distant explosion interrupted their discussion, followed by flashes of light from the eastern ridge. Krelthar search parties immediately began redirecting toward the disturbance. Commander Aerith, Talus realized, her mental voice brightening. The resistance is creating a diversion. Perfect timing, Ethan said. Let's move while they're distracted. They descended swiftly into the valley, using the forest cover to mask their approach. Ethan's enhanced senses provided advance warning of patrols, allowing them to avoid most confrontations. When fighting proved inevitable, they worked with seamless coordination, Ethan's sword leading the charge while the princesses provided range support with their staffs. They had nearly reached the eastern slopes when disaster struck. A hidden Krelthar squad ambushed them from concealed positions in the underbrush. Though they dispatched most of the attackers quickly, a massive Krelthar commander, nearly twice the size of the others with elaborate bone decorations signifying rank, seized Talus before they could react. Royal blood, the commander growled in broken, standard galactic, pressing a jagged blade to Talus's throat. Valuable prize. Ethan and the other princesses froze, weapons ready but unable to strike without endangering Talus. Let her go, Ethan demanded, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him, both his own and the echo of Talus's terror through their bond. The Krelthar commander's lipless mouth stretched in what might have been a smile. Off-worlder, prophet killer, high shaman wants your head. Ethan, Lyriel's mental voice touched his mind privately. I can create a momentary distraction in his mind. Be ready. Before Ethan could acknowledge, he felt Lyriel's consciousness surge outward. The Krelthar commander staggered, his grip on Talus loosening just enough. Ethan lunged forward with inhuman speed, his guardian sword slicing through the commander's arm at the elbow. The severed limb fell away as Talus twisted free. Nyara pulled her younger sister to safety while Ethan engaged the howling commander. Despite his injury, the Krelthar fought with berserk strength, forcing Ethan to utilize every enhancement the guardian armor provided. When the commander finally fell, Ethan stood panting over the body, his sword dripping with dark ichor. The princesses rushed to him, their hands checking him for injuries with tender concern. You fought magnificently, Nyara praised, her fingers lingering on his chest plate. Are you hurt? Ethan asked Talus, who still trembled slightly from her ordeal. No, she assured him, pressing close against his side. You saved me. They continued their journey with greater urgency, aware that the commander's squad would be missed. As they ascended the eastern ridge, Ethan felt a strange pressure building in his head, a cacophony of mental voices growing louder with each step. Something's wrong, he muttered, stumbling slightly. I'm picking up too many minds at once. Lyriel steadied him, her cool palm against his cheek. Your abilities are expanding faster than we anticipated. You're receiving unfiltered telepathic input from everyone in range. How do I control it? Ethan asked through gritted teeth. Focus on our bond, she instructed. Use it as an anchor. Ethan concentrated on the three distinct mental signatures that had become so familiar. Lyriel's serene strength, Nyara's analytical precision, Talus's youthful passion. The chaos receded, replaced by their comforting presence. Better? Lyriel asked, her mental voice intimate. Much, Ethan confirmed, straightening, though I'd appreciate some training in telepathic etiquette when we're not running for our lives. We have much to teach each other, Nyara agreed with a hint of suggestiveness that made Ethan's pulse quicken despite their predicament. They crested the ridge to find a small force of Silvari resistance fighters engaged in battle with Krelthar troops. Unlike the princess's luminous beauty, these Silvari were hardened by conflict, their green skin darker, marked with ritual scarifications, their movements precise and lethal. At their center stood a commanding figure who could only be Aerith, taller than the others, with elaborate armor similar to Ethan's but weathered by years of use. When he spotted them, his white eyes widened in recognition. "The prophecy lives," his mental voice boomed, reaching them across the battlefield. The princesses and the Star Wanderer. With renewed vigor, the resistance fighters pressed their attack, creating an opening for Ethan and the princesses to join them. Together, they drove back the Krell-Thar forces until the enemy retreated in disarray. In the aftermath, Commander Aerith approached and knelt before the princesses. "Your Highnesses, we had veered the royal line extinguished." "Rise, Commander," Lyriel spoke aloud for the first time in Ethan's presence, her voice musical and clear. "Your loyalty honors us." Aerith stood, his gaze shifting to Ethan with undisguised curiosity. "So this is the off-worlder from the prophecy. He wears the guardian embrace as if born to it." "Ethan Ward," he introduced himself, extending a hand in human fashion. "Historian, explorer, and apparently prophesied savior. Though that last part's still up for debate." The commander clasped his forearm in the Silvari manner. "The debate ends today. You've awakened the sanctuary and bonded with the royal line. The prophecy unfolds as written." "About that," Ethan said, lowering his voice, "the bond seems to be having some unexpected effects on my mind." Aerith nodded gravely. "The joining of human and Silvari essences is unprecedented. Your transformation progresses rapidly, perhaps too rapidly for safety. We must reach the primary node at the Temple of Echoes," Niar interjected. "The stabilization chamber there could help regulate his developing abilities." "And complete the awakening of the defense network," Tylus added. Aerith's expression darkened. "The temple is the heart of Krell-Thar power now. The High Shaman has made it his stronghold, with hundreds of warriors and blood mages guarding its perimeter." "Then we'll need a plan," Ethan said, his historian's mind already analyzing potential strategies. "And probably a miracle or two." Lyriel's hand found his, their fingers intertwining. "We have something better than miracles, Ethan Ward. We have you." That night, as the resistance camp settled into watchful rest, Ethan and the princesses retreated to a private tent provided by Aerith. Their bond had grown stronger through the day's trials, and as they came together in the ancient human way, their mental connection deepened further. In the afterglow of their union, as they lay entwined in a tangle of limbs, both human and Silvari, Ethan felt something new stirring in his mind, a clarity of purpose and understanding that transcended his individual self. "I know what we need to do," he whispered into the darkness. "I know how to defeat the Krell-Thar." Dawn broke over the resistance camp as Ethan outlined his plan to Commander Aerith and the assembled Silvari fighters. The Temple of Echoes loomed in the distance, its ancient spires now defiled by Krell-Thar banners and blood magic sigils. "The Krell-Thar's strength is their blood magic," Ethan explained, pointing to a holographic map projected from one of the Guardian artifacts. "But it's also their weakness. They channel it through the temple's central chamber, the same chamber that houses the primary node." "A direct assault would be suicide," Aerith objected, his scarred face grim, "even with your Guardian weapons." "That's why we won't attack directly," Ethan replied with a confident smile that made the three princesses exchange appreciative glances. "Your forces will create a diversion at the eastern approach while we infiltrate through the forgotten passages beneath the temple." Lyriel stepped forward, her luminous form commanding attention. "These passages were sealed generations ago, but as royal blood, we can reopen them. Once inside," Ethan continued, "I can use my hybrid abilities to infiltrate their blood magic network and turn it against them. Meanwhile, the princesses will activate the primary node." Nyara's delicate fingers traced the temple's central chamber on the map. "The ritual requires all three royal bloodlines working in concert. It's why the Krell-Thar sought to sacrifice us together. But there's more," Tylus added, her youthful face solemn. "To permanently bind our fates to the defense network and to Ethan, we must perform the ritual of eternal union." A murmur ran through the assembled Silvari. Aerith's eyes widened. "Such a bond has not been formed since the ancient days. It cannot be undone." "Which is why it must be their choice," Ethan said firmly. "I won't have them bound to me by prophecy or necessity." The princesses moved to stand beside him, their hands finding his with natural ease. "We have already chosen," Lyriel declared, her mental voice resonating with certainty. "What began as rescue has become love. What was prophecy has become desire." "Our people have a saying," Nyara added, her white eyes holding Ethan's gaze. "Fate brings souls together, but hearts choose to bind them." Tylus completed their circle around him. "We choose this binding," Ethan warned. "We choose you." The resistance fighters erupted in cheers, their mental voices creating a symphony of approval that washed over Ethan like a wave. In that moment, he knew with absolute certainty that he had found where he belonged, not despite being stranded on this alien world, but because of it. As night fell, the resistance forces moved into position. Ethan and the princesses, cloaked in stealth technology from the Guardian arsenal, approached the temple from its forgotten western face. Ancient stones, untouched by Krelthar corruption, responded to the princess's touch, revealing a narrow passage that spiraled downward into darkness. "These ways were built as escape routes during the first flowering," Lyriel explained as they descended. "Only those of royal blood can open them." The passage eventually opened into a vast underground chamber, directly beneath the temple's central sanctum. Ancient machinery, dormant for generations, lined the walls. At the center stood a platform surrounded by 3 smaller pedestals arranged in a triangle. "The heart of echoes," Nara breathed, her mental voice tinged with awe. "The first and greatest of the defense nodes. Above them, they could hear the rhythmic chanting of Krelthar blood mages, their guttural voices vibrating through the stone ceiling." "They have started their ritual," Ethan observed, feeling the malevolent energies gathering. "We need to move quickly." The princesses took their positions at the 3 pedestals while Ethan ascended a short staircase to the central platform. As they had planned, he opened his mind fully, reaching out to touch the blood magic network the Krelthar had established throughout the temple. The sensation was immediate and overwhelming, like plunging into a river of molten hatred. Krelthar consciousness, alien and cruel, surged against his mental defenses. Ethan staggered, nearly losing his connection to his own body. "Ethan?" Lyriel's concerned voice cut through the chaos. "We're with you. Feel us." The princesses extended their consciousness toward him, their familiar mental signatures wrapping around his like protective armor. Strengthened by their presence, Ethan pushed deeper into the blood magic network, identifying its patterns and weaknesses. "Now," he called out, both aloud and mentally, "begin the ritual." The princesses began to sing in harmonic tones that seemed to vibrate at the cellular level. The pedestals beneath their hands illuminated with golden light that spread outward in intricate patterns across the chamber floor. The light reached Ethan's central platform, spiraling up his body until he was encased in a column of radiance. Above them, the Krelthar chanting faltered as their blood magic began to respond to a new influence. Ethan's hybrid consciousness, amplified by the princess's ritual. He could feel the high shaman's panic as control of the energies slipped away. With a mental push that drew on every ounce of his humanity, his determination, his adaptability, his capacity for love, Ethan seized control of the blood magic network and reversed its flow. The Krelthar's own dark energies turned inward, consuming them in a cascade of backfiring spells. Simultaneously, the princesses completed their ritual. The golden light intensified, shooting upward through the ceiling and into the temple proper. Throughout the structure, ancient mechanisms awakened, purging Krelthar corruption with pulses of cleansing energy. In the chamber, the light converged on Ethan and the princesses, drawing them together at the central platform. As their bodies met, a final surge of energy enveloped them, binding their essences in ways that transcended both human and Silvar understanding. When the light faded, they stood transformed. The princess's luminescence had intensified, while Ethan's skin now held a subtle green undertone that pulsed in rhythm with their heartbeats. More significantly, their mental connection had evolved into something permanent and profound. 4 distinct consciousnesses that remained individual yet inseparably linked. "It is done," Lyriel whispered in their shared mental space. "The eternal union is complete." From above came the sounds of celebration as Era's forces entered the temple unopposed, finding only confused, powerless Krelthar, where once had been fearsome warriors and mages. In the days that followed, The remaining defense nodes activated automatically, their energies spreading across Taranju in a web of protection. The Krelthar, stripped of their blood magic and facing a unified Silvari resistance, fled the planet in disarray. 1 month later, Ethan stood on a balcony of the restored Temple of Echoes, now the center of a reborn Silvari civilization. Beside him, Lyriel, Niara, and Tylus watched the sunset, their bodies warm against his. "Not bad for a stranded historian," he remarked, enjoying the way the fading light played across their luminous skin. "You were never just a historian," Lyriel replied, her head resting on his shoulder. "You were always meant to be here." "The Star Wanderer," Niara added, her fingers tracing patterns on his forearm that sent pleasant shivers through their shared bond. "Our Star Wanderer," Talus corrected with a playful mental nudge. Ethan smiled, embracing the 3 women who had changed his fate as thoroughly as he had changed theirs. What had begun with 3 alien girls bound to a sacrificial pillar had transformed into something none of them could have imagined. A union of different worlds, different biologies, different souls. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I spent 3 years trying to find a way off this planet. Now I can't imagine being anywhere else." "Then don't be," they answered in unison, their love flowing through the bond that would connect them for all their days. As night fell over Taranshu, the 4 of them, human and Silvari, bound by choice rather than fate, stood together under alien stars, their joined hands a testament to the unexpected paths that lead to where we truly belong.